Well, it's that time. How do we do this? There's a lot I'd like to say. First and foremost, this was an incredible experience. Like, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, this is probably one of the coolest things I've gotten to experience as a gamer. I grew up with the books and the movies, albeit I didn't read the books too much, but I definitely enjoyed the movies. My father and I went to go see every single one in theaters. There's a couple that I'd actually seen a few times because I went not only with my dad, but with friends and family. That being said, I kind of went into this game not really caring so much about, what I was going to experience. I just kind of was caught up in the hype of it. I had, a fair few ideas, and I'm like, okay, there's a couple things I really want to do, like fly around on the broom and just go check out, like what the world has to offer, basically. Like, I'm really big into open world games. I really love exploring them and going through and hitting all the map markers and just checking it all off, and this game wholly delivered in that aspect. It really did. I have not felt the sense of discovery like that in a long time. I don't even really think... I think Elden Ring might have come closest to this sense of discovery, but to be honest, I followed the guide for that, so with few exceptions, I wasn't really exploring so much as I was in this game. I didn't look up a single guide. The only things I really saw were just a couple, like, how to get cool gear, like things to do to get cool gear, and it wasn't even really spoilers in that regard, just like kind of pointed you in the right direction and hopefully you figured it out. But that aside, the world, the detail, the exploration, 10 out of 10, like 20 out of 10, honestly. The whole world is so unique, from the smallest little hut in the middle of the woods to the grand staircase at Hogwarts. Every inch of space in between has something of value to it, whether it be a simple picture on the wall that's got a whole series of animations because, the living pictures, to a broom just sweeping away, the sense of magic that they have in this world is just awe-inspiring when it really gets everything put together and you really get to see the culmination of it all. Specifically walking just through Hogwarts itself, there are so many things to catch your attention, whether it be students casting spells on each other and practicing new ones, to the suits of armor running amok and messing with each other, to the not even just the picture frames, but certain like gargoyle heads on like a mirror in the bathroom, for instance, going on a little tangent. And all of these like nods to the movies, to the books, the seasons, as you're seeing in the credits here, the detail with all of that, the decorations changing, like it was just, there was so much there to appreciate. And if anything, this game should get accolades on at least the immersion factor alone. But now that I brought up immersion, it does kind of bring me to the next point. The bugs. Oh boy, there were plenty. I have witnessed textures disappearing and blurring. I've seen full-blown environments just disappearing. I've had NPC pathing issues. I've had interaction issues. I still currently have a couple issues that are preventing me from actually like 100%ing this game. And one of which is rescuing that damn biscuit. But even though this game is almost as buggy as Cyberpunk was, there's really nothing that kept me from finishing. The game, it's got its jank, but there's so much going right for it that I was genuinely able to look past it. Not excusing it, it is definitely a mark off the list or off the score, with how frequent the bug issues were for me. I feel like this game suffers from something I like to call completionist fatigue, where if you play a game and you're trying to 100% it and you're taking your time, you're letting the hours stack on end, the gameplay stack on end, you're going through getting all the little detail, all the loot, all the locations, you're looking at all the notes, all the collectibles, the game starts to trip over itself a little bit. The further and further you go, the more you start to notice these little hairline fractures in the stability of the game, whether it be loading in environments, processing cutscenes, loading scenes or fast travels or anything like that. That happens a lot, and that kind of sucks. But ultimately, again, nothing kept me from finishing the game minus one thing. One bugged quest. And admittedly, it is solvable, but I didn't want to reload a save that was, 5-6 hours prior to where I was at the time I realized the bug was happening. Honestly, it might even be more time than that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm really hoping that they're going to come out with a bug very soon patch to fix that bug very soon. And as soon as they do, of course, I'm going to be on there. I got to rescue Biscuit. I got to get that done. It's eating at me. The combat in the game, albeit I wouldn't say it's buggy, I would just say the targeting system is shit. Absolute shit. I don't understand exactly what is going on, so it's hard for me to articulate it, but the ability to switch from target to target is rough. Does not work very well. Works, but I've said this point before and I'll say it again. I really wish they would just copy and paste Dark Souls or any From Software game, their targeting system, because it's basically the same thing, but at least in those games it works. You're able to switch around from target to target quickly, accurately. Your inputs and everything, they match up very quickly. There's a lot of correspondence with that. This game, no. I've literally sat there, my girlfriend was watching me, I'm hitting the joystick trying to switch targets and it was locked on to that one target. So much so that even though I was locked on to one target with the manual targeting, I would have this weird auto targeting thing come over and I would then start casting at somebody else. There was a setting that, forgive me, I don't know the specific setting off the top of my head, but I ended up turning it off 2/3 of the way through, that I think had to do with directional facing. So basically you're always targeting, unless you're otherwise manual, you're always targeting the closest person to you, even if the camera switches around. The base setting is you're gonna target wherever the camera's facing, something along those lines. Either way, all of it shit, dog shit. It's terrible. It was rough. The student cross wands battle, more or less what serves as a tutorial, was the hardest fucking thing in this whole game. It was the hardest. Granted, your spell set's limited, your gear sets are limited, so you don't really have a lot going in on that, but that aside, it was just so difficult because of the inability to switch around. That caveat aside, the combat's fucking awesome. The abilities that you have, the differences in them, the way you can combo them all together, the use of spells. It can be a 2-spell thing, it can be a 4-spell thing, it could be an 8-spell combo. The options are damn near limitless, and I got huge Zelda vibes off of that, because not only are you able to do these things in a cool creative fashion for combat, but you can then turn around and instantly use them in environmental traversal, exploration, puzzle solving, and all that. That's excellent. That is just beautiful design, in my opinion. And honestly, I genuinely feel like a lot of other games that are this big and that have this much content should borrow from that to some degree. Because when you have so many side things that don't really have to do with anything you're experiencing in combat, especially over a longer game, you really start to get this weird disjointed kind of feeling. It's like, okay, I'm fighting, now I'm pushing a block around, and now I'm, sliding tiles into place and stuff like that. Where in this game, you're fighting, you're levitating people up and sliding them down, you're spinning them around, you're freezing them and lighting them on fire, but you're also doing that exact same thing with the puzzle solving and the exploration. And that's just beautiful. I honestly think that's really cool. And again, it adds to that immersion factor that I was mentioning at the very beginning. Everything just in that regard just comes together so perfectly, and it was honestly just so fucking enjoyable. Like, I could not get enough of the combat system. I often found myself kind of breaking away from whatever goal I was doing to just go and kill random mobs on the ground. Didn't have to, really need anything from them, but I just wanted to. It was fun. And especially towards the end when I got pretty overpowered, despite playing on the hard difficulty, it was really no challenge at all, but it was still fun. And that's really what it comes down to. Because in a lot of cases, getting overpowered kind of takes the fun factor out of things. It sort of does in this game, but it's still super fun, super entertaining. And essentially the point I'm making is, though you're overpowered, it still feels like a bit of a challenge at times, and the core gameplay loop, at least for battle, despite being overpowered, is still fun, rewarding, and engaging. Now, the next bits are going to be sort of spoilery, so if you don't want any spoilers at all, I'll just say that I'm personally going to rate this game a solid 9 out of 10. Solid. I want to give it a 10 out of 10, honestly, I do. But the bugs, the technical performance on it is just so bad. I honestly could not recommend or give it the full 10 out of 10. That and a couple other issues that I will get into now and elaborate on a little bit. So, 9 out of 10, highly recommended, super immersive world, really fun gameplay loop, super interesting side activities and puzzles. I just couldn't help but explore the whole world. The gameplay was fun, the traversal was really interesting with the brooms and the mounts and yada yada. All that, really fun and engaging, definitely worth your time, definitely worth checking out. The story. The first Harry Potter movie felt like more of an introductory to the world rather than a movie with a story and a plot. I'd say the last first two-thirds of the game, or movie, excuse me, and game actually in this case, felt hugely like, here's what the world is, here's what you can do, here's what's going on, these are things that exist here, and that's what it is. And then the last third is when the story really starts to take place. Even though, of course, in the video game, you're following the main quest the whole way through, so essentially you are seeing the story from start to end, up until like the last third or so of the game, maybe even fourth of the game, even the main story quest didn't inherently feel all that much different from the rest of the game. Albeit some stuff, there was a couple moments that it was very like, okay, this is main quest focused, but then a lot of the other elements in those quests kind of felt like stuff that I was doing elsewhere in other quests and on my own and all that stuff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Matter of fact, I actually kind of like this approach in the grand scheme of things, because again, you're getting introduced to the world, you're getting an understanding of what goes on, what can happen. The mind starts to wonder and think, oh man, what else can there be? And I think that's really good. The game is making you think that way, because I really hope, really pray we're getting a sequel to this. I can't see us not. I mean, this is probably one of the best-selling games of all time. Definitely hit records across the board, and all those things. If they don't make a sequel, I don't understand. That being said, there's a ton of lore for them to borrow from. They already kind of took liberties with what they had. And added their own, and I think they can do that again with the rest of the lore that's there. Do I want to see another trip to Hogwarts? Maybe, but I would also welcome a game that takes place at another school. Maybe you're just, another magical, superpowered fifth year or whatever, going to one of the other academies, and they can build those academies from the ground up. Granted, it might be a bit of an undertaking because they don't have all the pre-established like locations and nostalgia in their favor, but given how awe-inspiring and thought-provoking that this game was, I think that they could translate all of what they accomplished here into a sequel that takes place somewhere else. And if it doesn't take place somewhere else, mostly they could at least add a lot of locations to the game. So, if you go back to Hogwarts, it's fine, but you can also go to this place and this place and this place. Where in this game, you only can kind of explore throughout the whole map that you're given at the beginning. Maybe make it like a Pokemon Gold and Silver thing where you've got the same map again, obviously refresh the details and environments and stuff, but then there's this whole other region that you can go to as well and do the same things. That being said, they had so many different varieties of things across the board that some stuff felt kind of lacking, like the Room of Requirement. Room of Requirement was one of my more favorite aspects of the game. It provided a Sims-like kind of feature to the game. Build your own wizard emporium, wizard hideout, tower, fort, base, whatever you want to call it, apartment. And at first I was a little like kind of taken back. I was like, okay, this is all right during the tutorial bit, and then it doubles in space. I'm like, holy shit, I just spent an hour just customizing this one little room, and now you gave me twice as much space to work with. And to be honest, to this point I still haven't fully gone through and customized every little nook and cranny the way I want it, which I'm probably going to do here in a little bit. But then the beast taming, breeding, the beast mastery aspect of it is where I felt it was a little bit lacking. I loved everything about it minus the limited variety of animals. Now I'm gonna cut them slack in that the amount of stuff that you can do, the amount of detail again is not sacrificed here. You can breed the animals. Each specific species has a offspring model, accompanied all of which with their own animations. You can feed them, you can brush them, interact with them. There's a lot of stuff you can build, like decorations or whatever you want to call it. Forgot the game's term for them. But stuff you can build in the vivarium parts of your Room of Requirement that they can also interact with, again, more unique, only in that situation animations. And I thought that was really, really cool. So cool, in fact, that it made me kind of sad that there was only like, 10 or 12 species across the board. Yes, there's male and female models. Yes, there was rare models as well. And then of course the offspring models. But I just wanted more. I thought that aspect was so engaging and so rewarding and just so cool. And I was really sad when I kind of got to the end. I was like, oh, I've already done all the things with those. So I won't really hold it. I'll give that specific little part another 9 out of 10, just because as detailed as it felt on one end of it, it felt limited on the other end because of that. And that's kind of the point I was making, is there's so much going on. So it's as wide as a lake, deep as a puddle. But even that doesn't really feel right, because some parts of it are quite deep. It's just when you get to certain points, it's, it's not. That aside, the Room of Requirement was a lot of fun. I really like that aspect of the game too. Actually, that we'll wrap that point up there, because I pretty much ramble and repeat myself at this point. But now, the main part, the big thing, is the story. Whereas I mentioned before, a lot of the story, the main story, doesn't really feel like it's the main story until like the last third or fourth of the game. It was passable. I can't really find myself saying it was like all that memorable, at least of an ending. So I was trying to rush through the last like bits of the game, mostly because I wanted to get it finished so I could play my next game. And even though I was rushing, I would really tell that the game itself was rushed. There's a couple key encounters that the whole game, you know, you've been talking about these people and building up the actual confrontation, for the confrontation to kind of either just come out of nowhere or not be all that like impactful. Again, spoilers, I already mentioned that, so if you didn't get the first warning, well, better get this one because I'm gonna go into it pretty hard right now. With the Harlow and Rookwood situation, you are pretty much made to fear them the whole time. You really only see Harlow like once, and then he's just a boogeyman in conversation for the rest of the game. And then when you finally do get to confront him, it's a little more than you go to the location, you walk in, you kill a couple enemies, he appears, you kill him too, and that's it. That's done. So that was a little anticlimactic, and they tried to push in like an emotional part of that, which sort of got me a little bit, but it just, because the whole situation was rushed to begin with, didn't really hit me that hard. And then with Rookwood, arguably the even more important altercation and encounter, that just happens fucking randomly. Now, whereas I understand it, and like I can see it from a narrative point making sense, it was very unfulfilling. The fight itself was cool, but the situation or the happenstance in which that fight occurs kind of rushed. Again, it just didn't seem fitting. For both of those interactions, or those encounters, excuse me, I would have expected or hoped for maybe a raiding a base type of thing. They're there, and then we go through, maybe solve a couple puzzles to get through into the back of the base where they're actually, you know, posted up. We could have chosen to go stealthy or go in, you know, wands blasting. That would have felt organic. It would have felt more true to form and kind of how the rest of the game's going. It would have felt right. Especially when you take into account all the quests that led up to that, the like the poachers and all that kind of stuff, dark wizard quests, all of those, they were really like impactful. Like for instance, raiding the what was it, the Horntail Den or something like that, I forgot what it's called, but the dragon fighting ring, that part was really fucking cool. And again, animations that go unnoticed, like the dragons were having a full-blown fight with multiple different fucking animations. That was really fucking awesome. And then all of that culminates in, you just go to this place, you kill a wave of enemies, and then you fight the guy. There's no sneaking around, there's no finding them in a crowd of people or anything like that. So it's kind of just like, I don't know, again, it just felt rushed. And then with the Rookwood situation just coming out of nowhere, the fight itself was satisfying. You had a bunch of waves of enemies, pretty tough. And then Rookwood himself, and you straight up fucking vaporize his ass, like he gone. Pretty brutal, pretty cool, especially for a Hogwarts student. Then the big climax of the whole thing is the end, where you've got essentially the gauntlet to the repository. The thing Ranrock's after the whole time, and it's just really, they never really did a good job of explaining how all these goblins and stuff were able to get into the base, or sorry, essentially what is the basement of Hogwarts so easily. They did say a throwaway line saying if they didn't have charms and stuff in place before, they certainly will now. That's kind of a bullshit excuse in my opinion. Like, this is like the biggest, or like one of the most important wizardry schools that have been around for a long time at this point. You think they would have had something in place to prevent an entire goblin army essentially coming into their basement? Just doesn't, that didn't really click well with me. And also the whole like little run to it, it just felt really quick. Again, kind of rushed. It didn't feel as rushed as the other parts, but it didn't feel that long either. Like maybe instead of because at one point of this, all the professors come in and they're doing their things. It's a cool scene. They're shooting spells off, and you know, the astrology teacher ladies like blocking stuff and shooting it back, and Leviosos, they get like 3 of them at once out of your way. All that stuff was pretty cool. I feel like they should have split it up a little bit, had a couple pop up here and a couple pop up there, make it feel a little bit more organic, a little bit more like surprising. Also kind of pad it out a little bit, because again, it just felt so quick, especially when some of the older missions that weren't really as hectic of a situation still took way longer and there was way more to them. Granted, you're doing puzzles and stuff, and I see in the heat of the moment there's not going to be puzzles really to solve in this. I still feel like there could have been something, maybe platforms to move just to, you know, get across the way or something. In this case, it really wasn't anything more than just run along the path, fight the enemies at the junction, and there you go. And the final boss fight was pretty cool. Ranrock essentially turns into like a goblin metal dragon, whatever, like ethereal dragon. It's kind of cool, actually really cool looking. The fight itself wasn't all that challenging. I think the gimmick to it was pretty cool. You know, you gotta essentially hit different bubbles to break his shield, and then he becomes vulnerable and you can do damage to him. And again, I was a little bit overpowered, so the damage I was doing was pretty heavy, pretty easily. But the fight was satisfying. However, the end, the big spoiler here, Professor Fig jumps in the way and essentially helps save you, but ends up exhausting himself and dying. The entire time I did not care about Professor Fig. I felt like he was a plot device rather than a character. He never really seemed to have much to offer other than being like the obvious I'm gonna spell everything out character or plot device. So every time he was involved, he wasn't really bringing much new to the table. He was just simply saying the culmination of everything that's happened. He's like, okay, so we found this thing and we've unlocked this source of power and we got to go to this location to get the next thing. All right, I'll meet you at the map room. It's like every fucking time something happened, meet you at the map room. Like, not once did you think maybe I'll just wait outside for you. No, he's like, you know what, you got this. You got this ancient room with a giant demon fucking dog thing on the face. You know what to do, right? All right, peace. You can go take care of all that. I'm going back to the map room. Like, you're not gonna go fucking like oversee me interacting with this gaffer horn or whatever the fuck it's called, gap horn. Like, dude, it just didn't click well with me. And then when he goes to and dies, I just had no fucking feeling about it. I did not care. I just didn't care. It didn't affect me emotionally at all. So rushed. I felt like that was actually, I wouldn't say that was rushed as much as it was just uneventful. Out of everything, Professor Fig was like the one thing that didn't actually like hit. They didn't have the sense of gravitas, like, oh shit, man, you know, he's dead, this guy I've been spending the whole game with. No, it's just like, okay, so now who's gonna say my thoughts out loud in the game, basically. And obviously since the game's over, that doesn't matter. But that aside, again, the story, it's nothing too crazy memorable, but it was passable. Like, I was interested in it, especially at first when I was trying to figure out everything that was going on. I had no clue the hell was going on with any of it. And even to the end, it was still interesting. Like, I wanted to see, you know, what became of Ranrock when he got a hold of the stuff, and I wanted to see like what Isidora's actual like intentions were and outcome was. But me personally, I found other aspects of the game, side missions and stuff, way more interesting and endearing. The whole thing with Poppy, the whole set of side quests with her, probably were my favorite, next to the PlayStation specific quest. I forgot what it's called, but the basically haunted store quest. I think it's Your Raptor, another YouTuber. He probably said it best when that was like some of the best content he has played in like gaming in a while. And I agree. Like the budget for that quest alone, through the fucking roof. It was really cool, super intense. There's a bunch of like TikToks going around about how you're playing this game and you got this like little house elf. She's like, oh hey, you want to buy the shop? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm about the shop. She's like, all right, go talk to the old lady. She's selling it right up the street. And you're like, all right, I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna talk to the old lady. She's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. 1,500 galleons, it's all yours, easy peasy. I'm like, hell yeah, take my fucking money. She's like, oh, one thing. You know, my late husband, he left some stuff in the store. Could you get that for me? Bring it back? I'm like, yeah, sure, girl, no problem. Shit, you're hooking me up with such a deal. I got you. I'll do that, no problem. And next thing you know, you're in a fucking horror house dungeon. Yeah, it's just out of nowhere. You got fucking creepy ass mannequins coming at you. It's like damn near weeping angel status. Creepy, intense as fuck. The voice actor for one of the characters in that quest, fucking banger. I will remember that guy for sure. The main quest though, I can't say I was that intrigued, or at least that moved. And again, the character death just it was lost on me, honestly. And the side quest with Sebastian, where you get the dark art stuff, it was all right, but that kind of felt generic. And I saw the writing on the wall at the very beginning when it found out about his sister, so I was like, ugh, okay, well, this is how that's gonna go. But that's really about it. I've been rambling for damn near 30 minutes now. If you made it this far, you guys are amazing. I'm so happy that I've actually kept your interest and you're here. Like that's the whole point, is I'm trying to build a space where we can all get together, talk about video games, share our thoughts. You'll notice that I ignored the elephant in the room when it comes to this game, and that's because I've made my thoughts on it very clear already. If need me, I'll even make another video about that specifically. But ultimately, this game was great. It was essentially a childhood dream come true. Solid 9 out of 10. Genuinely, I feel the only thing that was holding this back from that perfect score, in my opinion, was the overall technical performance. Had a bunch of fucking issues. A bunch of issues. And frankly, this day and age, that's not really excusable. A couple I can look past. This game had so many, so frequently, and I know it's not the case for everybody. I don't know why my luck was worse than everyone's, but I had a lot of problems. Granted, I was able to finish the game. There's only one thing holding me back from getting like the completion, like the 100% complete rating, and at this point in time, it seems to just be a patch away. So fingers crossed that comes sooner rather than later, because I'd really like to platinum this, but we shall see. But again, great game, highly recommend it. 9 out of 10 in my opinion, very close to a 10 out of 10. Do I think it's worth going out and buying it full price? If you have the time for a game like this, because there's a lot of game here to play, absolutely. If you're nostalgic or even just a Harry Potter fan in general, and like you know the series, know the lore, you've watched the movies, you read the books, this is absolutely something to add to the collection. Just taking a few hours, running around Hogwarts, checking out the Highlands around it, that is a true Harry Potter dream come true. I know that sentence is redundant, but it really is. Like I can't articulate really any better than that how impactful, how enjoyable it was as somebody who grew up watching this stuff on screen, and now having it in an interactable medium is genuinely mind-blowing. It feels kind of like that step into like VR when you don't know anything about that kind of stuff and you're first putting on the helmet and you're all of a sudden like, holy shit, I'm surrounded by all the shit. It's almost kind of got a similar feeling to that. Granted, it's not VR, but I hope you understand what I'm saying when I mention it like that. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. If you haven't got already, check out my TikTok, follow me on Twitch because I stream every day, and also follow me on Twitter. Well, it should be called Titter with some of the shit I see on there. Goddamn. No, but follow me on Twitter because I post on there almost every day as well. It's when I go live, you know. Got links to my Twitch on there as well. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you again for hanging out, watching the video all the way in. Tell me what you think about the game in the comments. Leave me a like. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel as well, because I've got plenty more games to play, plenty more thoughts to share. And really, that's the whole thing I'm doing here. Is I'm building a platform so we can have a dialogue. I want to talk about games. And I just talked about this one for 30 minutes to myself. I really do appreciate everybody that's given me support too while playing this game. I had some long 8 hour streams playing this. A lot of y'all hung out for that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart with that as well. And yeah, that's enough for me on this one, you guys. Panda out.